Welcome everyone, Fite Sports Uncovered again, and this week we're stepping away from what you traditionally known us to be talking most about. Normally it's a couple of guys and girls trying to punch each other in the face, maybe kick each other every now and again, but we're going to take that other angle. Remember, we've been talking a lot of gaming over the last couple of weeks and months, and today's show is all about gaming. We're talking to one of the top gaming organizations in this country. They look after some of the top talent. These are guys that travel the world, play games for a living. Yeah, you heard me right. Play games for a living. So strap yourselves in. We're going to chat to some of the founders, some of the managers that look after gaming in this country for these particular guys. And my guests today are the guys from Goliath Gaming. First up, Aston Miller, thanks so much for your time. You're one of the founding partners, one of the managers that look after day-to-day operations, day-to-day management of Goliath Gaming. You guys have got an achievements list that makes a politician's speech look like a walk in the park. Before we get to those, you guys founded, June 2017?
That's correct, yeah.
What was the thinking behind founding a gaming organization? And we're talking about a multi-gaming organization, and more importantly, the name Goliath Gaming. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I mean, it's quite a story actually. I mean, historically, I always played games. I played competitively. I actually played for Bravado for quite a while. We went overseas in 2016 to France, to Dubai, to China, to America, all in 1 year. I think that year I ended up making more money from actually competing and winning locally and internationally than I did from my job, which is when I decided to take it kind of full time. My original nickname was actually Goliath. Very long ago, I was actually a very small little kid, with no voice broken. I was scared to talk on the mic. And I had to decide on a nickname before I went to one of these competitions. And you get tiny and it's someone that's huge. It was my mom kind of gave me the idea, and she was like, "You're a very small kid. What about Goliath?" And that kind of stuck. Eventually got shortened to goals and whatever, but that was one of the backstories. But how it all kind of formed was after I'd left Bravado Gaming, we were all sitting around a dinner table, and I was talking about what I'm going to be doing next. What is there out for me? I need to go join another team, what have you. And I was actually sitting with Michele, one of my best friends, and my dad was sitting there. He was like, why don't you just try and make your own thing? Why don't you just try to do it yourself? You know how things went well for you, things didn't go well for you. You know the scene. You've been playing for 15 years. Why don't you just have a bash at it? And we had a couple of drinks, and it was kind of a joke more than anything. But all of a sudden, he invited Michele, Gabby, Dagan, my brother, and we all just got stuck into it. And it basically was two experienced gamers backed by a management team of guys that are experts in finance, PR, legal, businessmen, things like that. So it just ended up being a culmination of passion and expertise. And here we have Goliath Gaming.
So more than 3 years later, we mentioned that achievements list. I don't want to start because 2017, you guys picked up some notable wins, some notable seconds and thirds, but some notable appearances at some top gaming events. But would it be unfair to say that 2019 has been your best year yet?
Yeah, 2019 was a big one for us, and I think this year was supposed to be even bigger for us, but obviously with COVID and everything that hit, it kind of took a backseat. But yeah, definitely, it took us a while to get started, but I think by the time 2019 came, we had pretty much the best across the board in the most popular titles in South Africa, which is what we set out to do. So it took us a while, but we eventually got there.
But it's not only local achievements, you've also got some notable international achievements under your belt.
So we right off the bat, we went overseas for the first time with our FIFA player Julio, the Beast. And he actually came the first weekend that he was here. He came to join us. He went 30-0 in the last qualifier for the World Cup. Banged it straight all the way to like 3 a.m. in the morning, hit all 30 games, got invited, and 3 weeks later, Mix was on a plane with him to Amsterdam. He went and played that's the FIFA Global, it's the World Cup, it's the biggest event you get for FIFA. And he actually played against the world champion, I think multiple world champion. He was the 8-time Danish champion as well. And beat him like, I think 9-4 across the 2 legs, which was a really, really epic achievement. I mean, that was one. Ever since then, we had our CS team go to Dubai and to DreamHack India. So they've competed overseas as well. We took our FIFA guys there in March this year. Actually, that was a big one because South Africa shares a region with Middle East. We're not big enough to be on our own, so they kind of link us with that talent. We always have to play against them to get spots. on the world stage. And we actually had the guys in Dubai because it kind of puts them on a level playing field. And that was when COVID hit, and we had to come home, and they cancelled everything. So yeah, that was a big moment for us. Obviously, it sucked that it got cancelled, but yeah, we live and we learn. But some big achievements.
Talking about some of the teams that you've got, I mean, you've got a very, very capable Counter-Strike team. You've got arguably one of the best Street Fighter gamers
For sure.
on your roster. You've got Fortnite gamers. You've got a whole bunch of separate teams. The thinking behind diversifying to that degree, I know you're a multi-gaming organization, and that's what it basically means, but the diversification into as many gaming titles as possible. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, I mean it kind of makes sense, right? You got to gaming market, especially locally, is very small. So for you to be able to run a business and to be able to kind of touch all these different facets of gaming is very, very important. I mean, I've always been a PC man. I've always played computer games. I've never my thumbs. I always joke about how useless they are. So they're not very well trained. But we had to. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to what the most popular titles are, what the most popular platforms are, and being able to find the best. You might have the best Snake player, but if there's not a market or community or mostly a fan base or people that are wanting to kind of compete on that level or compete in that title, then it doesn't really warrant us getting involved in it. But obviously, once we started with what we knew, which was Counter-Strike, Dota, both PC games, and then very quickly we decided, well, FIFA, looking at the local market, FIFA was a huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the VS Gaming Festival, for example, that was it was 400,000 rand for first place. I think it was over 1 million rand prize pool. 1,000 people entered, and that for us was like a big one. And leading up to that, that's where we picked up our first player. Tabo won that event. Actually, he went and won the whole 400k prize pool. I'll never forget. I remember him having a photo, and he was showing the pirate symbol like that when after he had won. And we shortly after that went after him. We got started chatting to him, and he joined us. And that's obviously a hugely supported game, probably the most popular game in South Africa, so that made sense. Shortly after that as well, we started seeing Red Bull, one of our partners, that they were supporting Hit the Streets, which is a fighting game initiative. And just seeing how that looked and how there was such a big crowd also supporting it, such a good vibe that we just felt like we had to get involved there. Of course, went for the top guy as well, I mean that's where we are now. So I think for us the only thing that's left is probably mobile gaming to get into, which we're busy watching right now to see kind of where it goes. But it's important to diversify. It's important to be able to be involved in the entire sphere of gaming.
You talk about the diversification. Gaming is a very innovative space at the moment. I think when I last checked, the last couple of recessions the world has been through, gaming has been the only industry that has essentially made money every single time there has been a recession. Obviously, it comes as a result of the innovation. 2017, you guys were named as one of the most innovative companies in the country. That was 2017. We're now 2020. How tough is it for you as a founder of Goliath Gaming to maintain that innovative status, that innovative sort of ethos within the organization?
I think it's pretty tough. I think it just purely boils down to passion and experience. For us, like we've got a crew that have been doing nothing but games for many, many years. So the fact that we even in the position to have support and to have backing to actually do this and to do this for our players, I think that's almost motivation in itself. And then it's backed by the experience. So we've all been competing, competitively at a high level locally, internationally. So we've seen it all. We've been to the biggest events in the world. We've been to some of the biggest, all the biggest events locally. We know all the people, from tournament organizers to our rival teams, to all the competitive pro players, to the different circuits. We've got the T-shirt. We've done it. So I think for us, that's where our biggest strength lies in keeping things, innovative. But I think the bottom line is you have to be adaptive. It's ever growing. It's ever changing. I mean, when we started, we never thought we would be sitting where we are now, and I think that's just something that you got to be able to adapt. And I think that's not only applicable to gaming, but I think it's something that we've been able to do well.
Well, Ashton, thanks so much for your time. I mean, it's
awesome.
Fascinating to hear it from one of the founders. Dude, wish you all the best. I know 2020 has been a bit of a disastrous year when it's come to your plans. I suppose it
actually worked out better. It actually, well, so I mean, we always had some big plans for this year, but when COVID hit, I think the stereotype of gaming became just such a different view entirely. I mean, even the World Health Organization, just a year ago, they were saying it's addictive, it's bad, you've got to get your kids away from it, it's scary, it's taking over their lives. And then suddenly when COVID hit and no sports could be played, nothing else could be done, no school, then it was like, well, play games with your family. You know, it's a safe pastime. It'll keep you busy. It keeps things social. And I think that was even a big push for us, at least as well, was to break away from that stereotype of just wasting your time, you know, mindlessly playing computer games or games, making it about interaction, socializing, you know, common goal, common objective, common problem solving. And I think those are the things that got brought to light this year, which is at least had a positive impact on us. But yeah, sorry for going away there, but yeah, thank you very much.
So from one founder, pro gamer and team manager, to another founder, pro gamer and team manager, Michele Brundani. This guy was one of the founding team. So we got the view from Ashton earlier. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. We heard earlier from Ashton how this all came about. A couple of drinks, a couple of suggestions, a couple of mates talking. We're now, 3.5 years later, massive achievements. I think the logical question for me is from then to now, the state of gaming locally here in South Africa, in your mind, in your experience, how's that all changed?
So I still think we are quite far behind. A lot of people in South Africa don't actually have internet connection. They don't have money to afford the new PlayStation, computer games. But I do think we're heading in the right direction. We are being included in a lot more international tournaments where South Africa will get 1 spot or 2 spots where we have our own qualifiers, and then South African players get the opportunity to actually go and prove themselves and show the world what they got.
So you talk about those spots that South Africans get. Who actually arranges those spots? Who orchestrates that you guys will play against this team versus that team? Get this group of gaming teams together and bash it out for that 1 or 2 spots?
So it would come down to the tournament organizers. For most of the bigger tournaments such as FIFA, the tournament organizer would have to buy the licensing to actually host and get that spot to give out to a player. But yeah, it does always come down to the tournament organizer getting those opportunities for the players and the teams.
So things have changed radically since June 2017. Let's go back just this year alone. February, no one expected what happened, this pandemic, COVID. The state of gaming in February, we're now middle of November. Your thoughts on just the last 8-9 months? What has changed in the world of gaming locally and internationally?
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, especially during lockdown, South Africa has been included a lot more in overseas opportunities. For example, our one FIFA player, Thabo Moloi, he actually won a qualifier that was hosted by SAFA to represent Ibafana Bafana alongside Kagiso Radaba, Sibusiso Vilakazi, and I can't remember the other one, apologies. But sorry, what was the question again?
So just in terms of how it's changed between sort of February and now November.
Okay. So yeah, it's actually put a big spotlight onto gaming in South Africa specifically. It seems like a lot of brands weren't able to actually do the live marketing events and stuff like that. So it seems like they did put their attention and focus onto esports and just online in general. And I do think we, as Goliath Gaming, got a bit of a boost from the lockdown.
The impact of COVID, the fact that your gamers were not able to travel, you guys weren't able to travel, the fact that it's now literally all gone online. So where business people are conducting Zoom meetings, you guys are conducting online gaming tournaments. I mean, has that been a major, major boost for the gaming industry globally?
I'd say a little bit of a boost, but at the same time a bit of a hinder. For example, one of our StarCraft players qualified last year to go and represent Goliath Gaming in South Africa in China. And unfortunately with lockdown, that obviously didn't happen. But there are still a lot of opportunities currently going on with our FIFA players and obviously Jabi, our Street Fighter player, where they are still competing for spots, assuming those events will take place next year.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to pack a little bit more about what's happening in the management sphere of a gaming organization here in South Africa. We'll be right back after this.
Get faith-inspiring testimonies for living in divine health from the Healing School magazine. It's free of charge and easy to download. Just log on to www.enterthehealingschool.org/magazine. Fill in your name and email address. Download now.
Right, welcome back to Fite Sports Uncovered. And if you missed the first half of the show, you'll have missed quite a lot in our discussion with some of the managing partners here at Goliath Gaming. Yep, we're not talking any real punchy-kicky today. We're actually talking gaming. And as I mentioned, my guests today are some of the management crew from Goliath Gaming. Michaela, you were talking just before the break about the impact that the pandemic has had and potentially positive impact towards yourselves and your gamers. Big question for you is orchestrating, putting a gaming organization like this together requires management, it requires a skill set, but most importantly, it requires gamers, it requires players. Some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced over the last couple of years, bearing in mind that you're a young organization, 3.5 years old, sourcing talent, managing that talent, and then obviously keeping that talent so your competitors aren't stealing them either back or stealing them away from you. How tough is that on a day-to-day basis?
It is quite a tough thing, especially now, like you say, we're over 3 years old. We've built our players up from the ground up, simply into superstars. And lately we get a lot of other teams and businesses, agencies trying to jump in and poach the players. So yeah, it is a tough one, but I like to think we've done a lot for our players from the start till now, and they're quite loyal and they do tend to stick around.
I'm assuming that one of the key factors with regards to sourcing that talent, poaching that talent, because obviously that's part of your game too, and keeping that talent is your access to a sponsor pool, is your access to tournaments, is your access to affording these youngsters, and bearing in mind, looking at the average age of your players, we're looking at early 20s. So one of the big factors for them is money, sponsors. What do I put in my back pocket? Is that right?
Correct, yeah, 100%. I think money is a nice incentive for the player, as well as the overseas opportunities that I do believe we can offer our players. We provide our players with a platform to excel and shine in South Africa and hopefully reach the goals of overseas professional gamer.
Looking at your player roster, I mean, you've got arguably the top FGC gamer in terms of Street Fighter V, Javi Mabuza. You've got the top 3, I think, FIFA players on your roster. You have got some of the top names in virtually every single one of your teams. Wow, I mean, that's a massive achievement, but that also means that you've now got to raise your game to keep them.
Correct, yeah. So, I think Goliath Gaming is one of the strongest management structures in the country. Not only do we provide a platform for our players to compete in on the gaming side, but we like to develop our players not only inside gaming but outside of gaming as well. And that's where the rest of our partners come in. We have a financial advisor who assists the players with managing their money. We have Gabby, our public relations wizard, who provides the opportunity for players to jump into the media and do interviews and just pretty much build their profile as a professional gamer.
Well, there you go. Michele Brondani, one of the founders of Goliath Gaming, giving us his sense of what's happening in the global state of gaming, not only over there, but also how it's affected and how it is worked here with his players and to keep those youngsters happy and gaming as much as possible. We're going to be coming back with the next very exciting proud member of the team. Going to talk a little bit more about some of the other aspects around consoles, platforms. We'll be right back.
Introducing the new, fresh, and exciting Rhapsody of Realities app 3.0. The Messenger Angel Rhapsody of Realities just got a new updated app for reading Rhapsody daily articles. Enjoy reading and listening to your Rhapsody on the go while taking advantage of these amazing features. Brand new design, Enjoy the new design built to take advantage of the latest technologies to make your app experience awesome. It's simpler and easier to use. With just one click, you have access to the article for the day. It's that easy. Sync notes. Pin down moments of divine inspiration while studying the devotional and sync them to the cloud to be available anywhere, anytime. A new interactive store. Visit the store and get all books by Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome for people of all ages and download them to your library. Store your favorite books in an easy access folder. Enjoy unlimited access when you upgrade to our premium subscription. Gain access to the complete package of Rhapsody of Realities every month. This includes the entire month's devotional on the go with free audio devotional add-ons. Track your reading habits daily with our automated calendar and identify unread days for the devotional. Read further studies right within the app. Download the new Rhapsody mobile app today for free and be inspired anytime and everywhere on the go. Available on the Google Play Store.
Right, joining us now is another one of the management team at Goliath Gaming, Tulani Sishi. Tuls, thanks so much for your time. You were formerly a gamer. You've now essentially been promoted to management to assist in the daily sort of management operations of what goes on and what, you know, if I look at the size of the teams, if I look at the size of the platforms, the titles that Goliath Gaming is representing it, I mean, that's a pretty monstrous job that you're now part and parcel of making happen on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. And considering we have PC players, we have PlayStation players, even with the new PlayStation coming out, there could be a little hassle over there. You know, FIFA is going to be sticking with PS4, but the PS5 is out, so people are basically going to be stuck with two consoles and juggling between. It's just because the mechanics are quite different. As well as with PC, we had Dota, we have Counter-Strike. You know, I mean, those two games you have to manage basically 10 players. So you can imagine an event like Comic-Con or Rage. First, we have to get them down for boot camp, and during boot camp, we have to get our sports psychologist over here, and then, you know, it starts off with training in the mornings, some meditations, after that, breakfast, and make sure everyone's set and ready for the day's practice. And I'm kind of hands-on with the players, so whatever they need, I just gotta, you know, help them out in terms of in-game, because that's my forte, playing Counter-Strike for about 16 years. I mean, on the road is an exciting time for me, but it's time for me to spread that knowledge and then seed it into the other players. I mean, the new generation is a bit different to the old. I mean, where I come from, things were hectic, things were hard. I mean, you have to be focused, dedicated. You didn't have time to mess around, so we kind of have to instill this in the new players coming in, but it's been a great journey so far. I mean, I joined GG last year, December, just before they went over to DreamHack India. That was my first experience with the boys, and you know, I kind of look at it as an achievement, just how composed they were. They're playing some of the best teams in the world, some of the best players in the held their own. I mean, a kid who was 16 years old in our squad. It was the first time overseas traveling, first time playing at an international standard at that game. Locally is a lot different to what you get abroad, so a lot of transitions have been tough, but yeah.
So I want to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier. You spoke about the multiple platforms. I also spoke about the fact PS5's come out, FIFA is sticking with PS4 for the time being. We also know that Xbox has been removed. Yeah. So very interesting times. However, the question for you is how tough is it for you to manage the fact that a youngster, and let's use Jubby as example, having chatted to Jubby once before, you know, the man's story is inspiring. I mean, he learned how to play Street Fighter from watching YouTube videos. Then he was lent a console. He got it from a mate, started practicing on a PlayStation console. He is now arguably the #1 Street Fighter 5 player gamer in the country. He's part of your team. Should Street Fighter 5 move to multiple platforms, how do you get your youngsters then back onto learning about that platform? Because let's use FIFA now as an example. To become a world champion in FIFA, you had to have won on PlayStation as well as Xbox. How tough is that for you guys on a day-to-day management basis?
It's not that much of an issue. It just comes down to individual. A lot of individuals struggle with adapting and changing, especially with the complexities of moving from, you know, PC to console to Xbox. The because the mechanics are different. How you move around in game is different to one platform to another. So you kind of have to mentally coach them and just try ease the process of transformation from one platform to another. With Jabi, I mean, his story is quite inspiring, and you know, again, he's sort of around my age group, so you could just see the determination, the hard work he put in. Everybody has to learn from someone, right? You have to learn from those YouTube clips. Tutorials are the best way, and with the access to internet, it's become easier and easier for kids to come along and, you know, try to pick up a new game and instantly just, you know, fit in quite well. But, you know, whether, you know, it seeps into them, whether it's from management, whether it's from themselves, it just has to come into fruition. So the technicalities and difficulties come in when there is this, but it's smooth sailing so far.
You mentioned earlier, before a big tournament, you guys get together, you do a boot camp, you bring in your psychologist, you bring in the guys to sort of get the heads right.
Yeah.
Coming back your day, Jabi's day, you didn't have that kind of stuff. You guys had to get your head right by yourself,
Yeah.
in probably the four corners of your own room, your own home. Nowadays, I mean, with the advent of, like you said, internet, the access to internet, with the professionalization of gaming taking place, with you guys bringing on people like psychologists to assist your gamers, is it now actually harder to perform, or is the pressure bigger for those youngsters to perform at such a young age?
I think it's twofold. At the same time, because we're giving our players a lot, we have an expectation, and that expectation creates pressure, and it's how they deal with that pressure. So we bring in Steve, and it's just to help them, you know, get in that zone. I call it the flow state, when you're in a situation where anything and everything that happens, you can overcome it through your training, through the process of critical thinking and all that jazz. And that's what we're trying to seep into our players right before the big tournaments. I mean, back in the day, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have facilities like we did. It was either internet cafe or the comfort of their home, or, you know, getting everybody into a car and driving up to Joburg. What I did from Durban, just the whole team drive up, boot camp for 1 or 2 days. And we didn't have, you know, internet access that was, you know, everybody couldn't really have it. So it was kind of like that back in the day, but now they get them everything they need to perform at the highest level, and then from that, there's also pressure on management just to make sure we're doing the right thing for the players. I mean, sure, we've had a few blunders here and there, but we've recovered here and there, and we've learned a lot, and you know, we can just implement it the next time. And refining the process is the key for us as management, to make sure we're getting the best out of our players, and in turn we're learning ourselves.
Talking about some of those management issues, what are some of the biggest challenges you face? I mean, you were not so long ago, you were just gaming.
Yeah.
Now you've got the added mantle of management on top of your shoulders. What are some of those big challenges that you face with that are different from just being a gamer?
First of all, backseat driving, it's one of the toughest things, because as a coach, that was one of my roles. You just can't help but think, you know, you could have done so much here, so much there, the little nitty-gritty things that could have helped them gain that extra round, or, you know, that extra frag and that server. It weighs on you quite a lot, but also being able to instill composure and confidence within your players, you know, encourage them to be brave at times where, you know, you're against the grain. I mean, in India was the toughest one. We were playing against 100 Pro, and we won we played some of the best rounds we've ever played in Counter-Strike with the team, and you know, I've never seen that before, and you try to replicate that same round, that same process, that train of thought. I mean, communication is the biggest thing. I mean, I come from rugby, and from there it was short, quick syllables, short words to indicate this and that. Whereas in Counter-Strike, you have open communication where everybody can hear at the same time. So you got to help them not to flood the communications, to instill, you know, composure and calmness. I mean, how do you get that? It has to come from the guy behind you. It's come from the coach. And sometimes, you know, a crazy round happens. You should never lose. I'm going to be a bit wild about it, just to, you know, whip the crack a little. I mean, crack the whip a little. But, you know, it can't be to the extent where it demotivates or discourages your players. It's going to be a fine line.
Final question for you, Tools. Lots happened globally. Lots happened here in South Africa. Let's talk on lockdown. We don't even have to go there. But your advice, having sort of migrated from a gamer in an internet cafe to your house, to, like you say, driving up to Joburg to attend events and just to play. Now you're in management. Your advice to young gamers out there, what should they be doing right now to turn their passion, their love, into potentially an opportunity to make money?
I think the first thing you got to work on your core characteristics, just communication, how you communicate to others, how you problem solve, because that's one of the biggest things in gaming. If you can problem solve in one game, you can do it, apply it across the board, if it's PC, console, whatever. And the second thing is you got to surround yourself with a good bunch of mates. I mean, that's the only way you really enjoy a game. I mean, for me, it was, I was living around an area with my best friends where we all love playing rugby, we all love, his mum owned internet cafe, so we were all there during the afternoon, so we all shared, you know, the same sort of train of thought and sort of communionship. And that develops. You start straying, you become the best player in the pack. Next thing you're playing with other people that are just better, and you got to keep grinding. It's the same thing as every other sport. I mean, the focus is there, dedication's there. You got to have someone you look up to, a mentor. That's an important part. And yeah, just grinding the tutorials.
Well, there you have it. Just too little time, so much to talk about, but I think you've just got a sense of what takes place in a gaming organization here in South Africa, across multiple platforms, across multiple devices, consoles, etc. You've heard it from the guys that are managing some of South Africa's elite gamers. I can't wait to talk to a couple of the others. I can't wait to see what's ahead for Goliath Gaming for 2021. But that's all we've got time for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next week, protect yourselves at all times. We're out.